Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michael Janda. I'm glad you're here. Over my 15-year agency run, we did tons and tons of websites, and I learned some valuable lessons along that process. We were doing websites for Google and Disney, ABC, NBC, Fox, Warner Brothers, and National Geographic, just tons and tons of website projects. And it was awesome, but I found that if you scope it bad things are gonna happen to your business. Website scope, if it gets out of control, it can sabotage your entire profit for a project. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the website scope workbook that is part of my course, Web Design Business Bootcamp. And this workbook will help you scope out every little detail of a website project to protect you from scope creep and to ensure profitability. There's a link down below that you can use to download the workbook for free. I know it'll help you scope your projects better. You gotta think of all these little details or you're gonna get screwed on these projects. This I created to help you extract all the right details from your discovery meeting, your conversations with your client, and turn them into a website scope that you can then go and create a proposal and create a contract off of this document right here. So a lot of detail goes into scoping a website. There's all kinds of features and pages and technologies that we use to build a website, and it's really, really important that you get it all straight in the scoping process. Otherwise, you have this nightmare halfway through the project where the client comes in and says, "Oh, I assumed that this was included." And we want to take away all assumptions. We want to get into the nitty-gritty details and have a concrete scope. All right, let's dig into this website scope workbook, and I'll teach you everything you need to know about it and what all of it means. So first you have just this title page here. This is really an internal document. You're not getting this out with your client and working on it with them. This is an internal document that you use, but hey, might as well throw a cool title page on it. So put the client project, client date, or the project date on it, and then move on to the next page. Client objectives. So we split this into primary, secondary, and tertiary objectives. Primary objectives, secondary, tertiary, they have different priorities. So the client may have multiple different objectives for this website. An objective for a website. Their current website doesn't convert very well. They want to increase conversion. They have a new product that they're launching that they want to highlight and build up sales around. They want to generate leads for their sales team. So we need some kind of lead capture mechanism. There's all kinds of different reasons why a client wants to rebuild their website. It might be dated and not match their brand properly. They may have a competitor that rebranded and they want to stay competitive with that competitor. You got to figure out what the objectives are because we want to echo those back to the client during the production process, especially in the strategy phases of the work that we do for them. So here we're going to break down what are their primary, secondary, and tertiary objectives for their website. Next, we go to website size and phases. Determine the size of the site and break down the phases that you're going to use to execute on the work. Now, I've done the phases that I recommend for each of these types of websites, but you may convert these. You might modify that to match your specific business or the specific project. So I give you this little section right here, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that you can use to go and break down your phases. Let's talk for a minute about a large, medium, and small and micro sites. You're probably thinking, okay, well, what does a large site mean? Mike, you've never told me that. How much is a large website? I didn't tell you because it is subjective to your specific business. I'll tell you right now what my sizes were. A large website was something that was probably $75,000 or more. A lot of times it had e-commerce and it had tons and tons of pages. A medium website was usually probably something around $50,000 to $75,000. That was a medium-sized website for our client base. A small website, this is just a few pages. We were in the 20,000s for a small website to go through this entire process. And then a microsite is just like a one-pager or 2 or 3 page website, and we were probably in the $5,000 to $7,000 range to create something like that for our clients. Now, you might be thinking, man, those prices are way higher than what I've ever charged for these sites. Well, the whole objective of this course is to level up your business, to help you start charging more for the work. I want you to know that that's the prices we were charging, and I left my agency in 2018. It's been 4 years now. And that's the price points that we were charging back then for the type of work we were doing. So there's so much room for growth in your price points in website design and development. And these processes and systems that I'm giving you are going to help you get more budget out of the projects that you do with your clients and charge more for this work. Now, large website. Let's just break this down for you. A large website might be a $20,000 website. That might be a large site for you. You might be doing $2,000 websites now, and a large website, man, 20 grand, you would freak out if you ever greenlit a 20 grand website. I have a coaching student who was there. He was working, he has a great agency in Canada, and he was doing $8,000 to $10,000 websites. Took my freelance course. I've done a bunch of coaching with him. He started to realize the reality of his numbers. On my last call with him, he was saying, I don't think we can do anything under 20 grand and make money on it. Because he started to understand what it really takes to execute, what they were really doing. His agency's been growing and clients are greenlighting the $20,000, $30,000 websites. He started when he was doing $8,000 websites for clients. So just adapting your processes is going to help you improve your pricing. Okay, so a large website, going back to this, I keep going on tangents, but going back to this large website, it's a big budget for you. Medium website, it's a big site, but it's pretty straightforward, not overly complex. A small site, not too challenging, but has more pages than a microsite. And then a microsite might be a 1-pager, maybe a 2-3 page website. So choose the size that you're going to use, because that's going to dictate which of the project flows and task lists and proposal templates you use. All right, moving on to the next page, hosting and platform. Hosting, where will the website be hosted? Is it an existing server? Is it a new server? And who is the web host? Platform, what website platform will it be built on? Are you going to build it on WordPress, Drupal, Joomla? There's tons of different platforms that you can build these on. Or it might be built on Wix or Squarespace or EditorX or Webflow. It could be built on a variety of different platforms. Determine now what you're going to build it on, because that's going to affect how you price it. Platform customization. Now, a lot of these platforms come with themes. That's like a pre-designed site or a builder that allows you to build the site fast without code. So what theme are you going to use? Because this affects how you price it and how you scope the site. So what theme do you plan to use? And just out of notification, I've been using the theme Salient for years. It's a WordPress theme. We used it at my agency. One of my employees loved Salient theme, so I started to learn it. We built our own site on it, and now I've mastered Salient theme. It's hard for me to build on other platforms because I'm so comfortable with that one theme. It's a builder. It's a templatized builder. Now, these themes and templates allow you to do a lot of customization. It's not just it's the standard theme and you build it. So some of these builders allow for customization. So what I want you to do here is determine how much customization you plan to do. So if it's a standard theme, out of the box, you're not going to customize it at all, then check that box, standard theme. Minimal theme customization, you might do some minor adjustments. Heavy theme customization, you'll make major modifications. And then fully customized. The project will include a unique, fully customized website experience. You're not building it on a theme at all. So most of the sites that I do today in my own marketing stuff are heavy theme customization. I use the Salient Builder, and then I customize it probably as deeply as you can customize that thing. Fully customized usually takes developers. You're going to want to have a programmer that you work with to do fully custom things. And some clients want it. Some clients want that fully custom solution, especially in those large websites. Almost all the large sites that we did were fully custom sites. All right, languages, front end and back end languages. What programming languages will you be using? You just want to identify those here. We have a whole lesson on those different programming languages. Website sections and pages. Now we talked to the client about how many pages are included on this site as part of the discovery conversation. You're going to go in, you're going to figure out what are the main sections, and then what are the pages inside of each of these main sections. We're going to start to identify a site map. It may not be perfect because you're going to go through the website workshop process, the strategy work with the client, where you're working on the content plan. Well, we're going to go through that process, but here we're going to make our best educated guess because we need to give the client a price. And in order to give a price, we want to define the number of pages so that we can price it and put the number of pages that we assume in our contract. And then in the strategy phase, if it is different than what we assumed, we have a clause in there that allows us to modify the price accordingly. So figure out how many sections and how many total pages. Just use this as a guide to help you work through that process. Next, features and technology. Features and technology. This can be something like video. We're going to put video on the website. That's a website feature. What technology are we going to use? We're going to host it on YouTube. And then we're going to embed the videos in the site. Make that determination here. Another feature, we're going to have an interactive map of all of the client's locations. That's a feature. What are we going to use technology for that? We're going to use Google Maps. And then you define that here so that you're scoping that inside of your contract with your client. So go through, list all the features and all the technologies you plan to use for this project. E-commerce, break down the content required for e-commerce. Now, e-commerce is where you can get into big trouble. If you don't scope it right at the start, you can get into nightmare projects. In fact, most of the big website projects that had problems at my agency came because of e-commerce elements. They're complex, you gotta scope them right, or you get into trouble later on in the project. So this is gonna help you scope it right. The e-commerce tools. Now we've already defined the features. If it's e-commerce, that's a feature of the site. What technology are we going to use? We're going to build it on Magento or WooCommerce, or what are we going to use for this e-commerce platform? Now, standard e-commerce pages are listed right here. I'm going to give you in our e-commerce usability standards lesson inside of the UX design portion of this course. I'm going to give you a breakdown of all these standard e-commerce pages. And we'll talk about that then. But for now, just know that there's a category menu page, a category landing page, a product search results page, product detail page, shopping cart page, and a checkout page. That's the standard flow of an e-commerce website. Each of those are explained briefly there. Watch that lesson about e-commerce usability standards and you'll get a much clearer idea with visual examples of what each of those are. Now, products and SKUs. we go here and put in the list of products, and this continues on to the next page, the list of products and the number of SKUs. So for example, you have Van Halen t-shirt. I love Van Halen, by the way. Van Halen t-shirt is a product, and a SKU is all the different sizes. There's small, medium, large, and extra large. Or there's blue and black. So Van Halen t-shirt is the product, and there's 4 different colors, and inside each of those 4 different colors, there's 4 different sizes. So now you have something that is one product, but it's 16 SKUs. I think 16 SKUs. If I'm wrong on the math, don't berate me. But 4 products, 4 sizes for each, 16 SKUs, I think is the right answer on that. So product, number of SKUs, figure that out. And this, I told you earlier, this is often you can't see this by looking at the site. You can't count it all up because there's so many different SKUs. Some of these clients might have hundreds or thousands of SKUs, but only what appears to be 80 products on their website. So this usually requires some conversation with the client to get an idea of their products and number of SKUs, and most of those types of clients will have that information available to you. Now, e-commerce platform, determine which e-commerce platform you will use to build the site, Shopify, WooCommerce, etc. I think I mentioned a second ago that we identify that in the feature and technology section. If you did do it there, you can also do it here. You just got to define that platform because it's going to affect how you bid it. Customization, it's a standard template, minimal template, heavy template customization, or fully customized. Again, this is the same idea as the site builder itself, the theme idea. But some of these, well, most of these, or probably all of these e-commerce platforms allow for a variety of different customizations. So how heavily are you going to customize this e-commerce experience? Standard, minimal, heavy, and fully. Identify that. If they want just a standard shopping experience, then you're probably going to do minimal template customization where you just rebrand the template to match the visuals of their brand. Next, payment gateway processor. What are you going to use to process payments? Common payment gateway processing, PayPal, Stripe, Authorize.net. There's a variety of different payment gateways. Identify what you're going to use here. For example, okay, so this course is hosted on Teachable, and Teachable uses Stripe as the payment gateway. So I am limited to the Stripe payment gateway options because they're all built inside of that Stripe payment gateway. Okay, then we go to the bottom, total number of e-commerce pages, total products, and total SKUs. That's what you add up on the bottom because you want to have those numbers when we put them back into that proposal. Next, we go to blog or news articles. This is just identifying the number of articles. I've been burned on this too. I mean, we had one project, I didn't get burned on it, but it was a huge project for NBC where they were migrating from one platform to another platform. And it was thousands and thousands of articles on one of their media sites that we had to port over into a new platform. Huge development project for NBC. So you got to know the numbers. What are the numbers going to be? Because there's a big difference if you're migrating 10 articles or 10,000 articles. Big difference how you're going to do it. Will these articles be migrated to a new platform? If yes, how complex do you expect the migration to be? No problem. I better include a little bit more for this in the scope. This could be a nightmare. I'll add sufficient time in the scope just in case. And then what blog or news platform will you build it on? And oftentimes the website platform has a blog tool built into it. WordPress, for example, started as a blog tool. Then it became a CMS, but it still has all of the blogging features built into the system. Other considerations. What other things do you need to think about in this website project? Then we go to this. This is the included versus not included section of the site. And I started adding this exact content right here to my contracts. And I started to do that because I realized that clients were having assumptions that some things were included in the site when my assumption was that they weren't. So I realized that a contract needs to include exactly what you're going to do and exactly what you're not going to do. Take all of the assumptions that the client might have and put a no next to them, that they're not included in this website scope. So here, the details section of this is exactly what you're going to see inside of the contract. I didn't change the language at all. So you're going to see it written here as if it's written to a client, but it's not in this document. In this document, it's just like reference for you to know, oh yeah, okay, I know what he meant by that, or I know what now we mean by that. So let's go down all the things that are included inside of the yes-no list. Content strategy, we're gonna refine the content and create a content organization. That's almost always yes. Information architecture, we're gonna take that content and we're gonna organize it into a user flow or a wireframe or into a sitemap as the information architecture deliverables. So click yes, no on that. In our websites, it's almost always included. Copywriting. If you're not going to write the copy, put no right here if they're going to provide you the copy. And most clients tend to do that. Even on some of the bigger sites, they tend to provide their own copy. People think that they can write copy. So put that in this document. Proofreading. Now, most of the time we would put yes, that we will proofread the copy that they deliver to us. We'll look for some typos and things while we integrate that copy into the site. UX wireframes, yes or no. And in most of our website sizes, we're including wireframes. UI visual design, yes or no. And yes, we're including that in most of our website projects. Unless they already are going to give you the design and you're just going to build it for them, you're going to give them visual design as one of the phases. Art direction. We're going to provide art direction to the designer. Icon design. I've been burned on this. The client assumed that custom icons were included. Are they included, or are you using standard template icons that you download from Envato Elements or something? Got to determine that. Typography design. Are you going to design a unique font for them? Now, most of the time that's no. In fact, I think I've always had that no, but I want to separate that from the next one, which is font licenses. That are we buying the license to use the font for this project? I did get burned on that. I had a client, our designers used a font, the client approved all the designs, and then when it came to launch, we had a $200 or $300 licensing fee for the font. And then we go to the client and say, hey, there's a $200 license fee for this font to use it online in your website, on your server. We're going to just charge that to you. And the client didn't want to pay it. They were like, why are you using a font that's going to cost me more money? So we ended up just absorbing that into the profitability of the project because I didn't define that font licenses were a no. Custom photography. Are you going to show up and take photos at their office or wherever? Yes or no? Most of the time that's no. Stock and existing photography, we're going to use stock photos, yes or no, and most of the time that's yes. Infographic design. This project does not include infographic design. Most of the time I put no on there because I'm going to bid infographics as a separate contract. But if you do decide to include it in this, then change the language here and include one infographic for this page or two infographics for one for each of these 2 pages. Define it in your proposal and contract. All right, illustration, custom illustrations, yes or no. Content management system, yes or no. When I put this in my contracts, we usually define again what CMS we're going to use. So you can see here, WordPress will be used as the CMS for this site. If you are going to use something else, you want to change that language in your contract. Third-party integrations and APIs, this can burn you too, because they have some weird feature that requires some off-the-wall technology that you build with an API, meaning you use these code calls to suck in the data from some tool somewhere and you embed it in your site. Those things can get nightmarish to build out. So are you doing any third-party integrations with APIs? Are you paying any third-party licensing fees? Some of those things cost money. Google Maps, for example, used to be free. Now it costs money to use Google Maps on your website. Analytics integration, standard Google Analytics, are gonna integrate it into the site. Yes or no? We usually put that as a yes. Social media sharing. Social media sharing plugins like add this or share this can be implemented into the site. Yes or no? Next, social media integrations. Are we using the API to suck in their Instagram content and display it in a unique way on their site? Features like that can cost a lot of money. I put no on most of these. Site traffic expectations. We're not going to include any assumed expectations that this site that we launch is going to increase your traffic by 75%. We're not putting that in here. We assume that it's going to, but put a no that there's no guarantee of any kind of site traffic expectations that they might have. Contact form. Are we putting a contact form on the site? And if so, what platform are we using? You want to define that here. Contact form database. Are we collecting the contact form info and putting it into a database for them? Blog, yes or no? Gamification. Gamification, this was popular about 10 years ago and still exists on a lot of sites, but you get points for interacting with the site content. You log in and every interaction builds you virtual points that you can use in a store to buy virtual and real goods of some kind. So is gamification integrated into the site? Yes or no? Localization. Localization is making multiple displayed languages of the website. So you have the site, it's originally in English, but you have a little drop down. You can change the whole language of the site to French or to Spanish or whatever language. Is that included, yes or no? I always put no on that unless we need it for something, and we did. We had projects where we needed to do it in multiple languages. Translation services, we're not going to translate, get the site copy translated, so that's usually a no, even if localization is a yes. E-commerce, yes or no? Responsive design and development, yes or no? We'll go into that coming up. Animations in motion, yes or no? Are we designing unique animations in motion? That's interaction design. It's something that we do in the flow of a large website. Front-end development and back-end development, those are both usually a yes, but you might have back-end development might be a no if you're just building it inside of a builder of some kind. You're building it on Editor X, and you don't need back-end programming because that's the whole point of that tool, is to not require a developer. So yes or no? Domain registration. Are we registering the domain and paying for that registration fee for them? Usually it's a no. Subdomain design and development. Subdomains. Subdomains is like site.example.com. Are we going and creating these subdomains for them? Gated content. This is content that's behind a login of some kind. Do we have a gated section of the site? QA testing, usually a yes, that we're going to test it for QA quality assurance. Cross-platform browser compatibility. Now this is an important one because I have gotten burned on this. The website will be tested on all the most recent versions of Chrome, Safari, Firefox, And I think those are the only ones that we have on there. I got to move my camera. And oh, Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is the one that kills you. So is this, are we building, are we going to make it compatible with older versions? No. So that's the thing. You want to have yes here, but you want to make sure that you say it's cross-platform compatible with the most recent versions of those browsers. The most recent. I got burned on this by Internet Explorer. I don't remember which version, 7 or 9 or whatever. I don't remember. But we had to, the client was like, hey, 22% of our users are still using an older version of Internet Explorer. We got to make it work on that platform, on that browser. So our team of developers had to go and figure out how to fix all the junk that was broken on an antiquated browser that 2 to 6 months later, nobody was going to be using. But it hit right at the right time when there was a new version that came out, and we got burned on, a few days of development having to make it backwards compatible. So this, you're going to put a yes, but make sure that it says the most recent version of each of these browsers. Focus group testing is usually a no. We're not going to do any special focus group testing. Website hosting, yes or no? Usually it's a no, that this contract does not include the hosting fees. We're not going to have it include a year of hosting. You're going to do a separate contract if you want to do a hosting agreement with your client. Project management system, we'll use Teamwork or Basecamp or Monday.com or ClickUps or whatever you decide you want to use, specify it here. Account management, the client will have access to a single person as their point of contact. Third-party vendor management, this one's on here because I got burned on this. All of a sudden they bring in some third-party person for something, and we have to start managing them. Like they're going to have some other business, some other agency do the e-commerce section. And now we built the site, but we're having to manage this third-party person on the e-commerce side. And that you have to factor into your pricing if you decide that you're going to do that. Client requested after-hours staffing. This one I put in there because clients started expecting somebody to answer the phone for them and send them files at 8 o'clock at night. No. So we put on our contracts, client requested after-hours staffing is a no. We're going to adhere to Monday through Friday, approximately 8 to 5 or approximately 9 to 6. And client requests for after-hours staffing for whatever reason is going to be a no. Client requested travel. I think I tell the story in one of these other lessons about the time when one of our clients made 2 of my employees fly to Washington, D.C. on December 22nd to have a brainstorming meeting. And we just absorbed it into the price of the project. It was like a $300,000 project, but still, I wish I would have had that this was a no right here in my contract. So we could have charged them the $1,500 or $2,000 that we ended up spending on that trip for those people to go out for a night to have this meeting with the client. Then client communication correspondence. Yes, we're going to do all of that, and we're going to run it through the project management system. And any face-to-face meetings not documented in this document are considered out of scope. So we are going to define in our flow, our project flow and our rounds and revisions, we're going to define all of the meetings that we have and put those in our contract. Okay, so again, this is exactly from the contract. This is the exact content that you'll see in there. Define it yes or no here when you're scoping the site so that you can consider these things when you go in to create your pricing. Now, as far as this document's concerned, I have mixed feelings about this. You have the discovery meeting agenda and you have this website scope workbook. And they're 2 really valuable documents during this discovery meeting process. Should you have them on the table or not? Part of me thinks no, because you want to come across like the expert. You want to ask the right questions and scope this without having to say, oh, I'm working on my checklist, like I'm working on my homework and it's sitting here on the table while I meet with the client. But on the flip side, I think there's something to be said about looking organized and detailed. And you show up with these documents and you're going and you're working through the content and you're asking the client questions and you're making your assumptions, but you're asking questions to confirm things. I think there's some value in that too. So I'd say use your best judgment for what's going to work best for your business and go with it. Trust your instinct. I don't think it's detrimental to have these out and to make sure that you flip through them and make sure that you're asking the right questions to get the answers you need to be able to scope this properly. That's the ultimate goal. Scoping this work accurately. A good scope leads to a good project. It's one of those cornerstone pieces that you got to have in place. That walkthrough is just one of the 60 lessons inside of my course, Web Design Business Bootcamp. One of the modules that's a bonus module in the course is about how to use Editor X as your no-code build platform. And there's a special version of the workbook that I've included in the link that is the Editor X version of scoping a website project. And the big difference in the Editor X version is that Editor X handles the hosting piece and Editor X becomes your content management system and your build platform. I've included both of the workbooks inside of the link. One is just the downloadable website workbook for any platform, and the other one is customized for Editor X. Check them both out. And if you're looking for a build platform, especially a no-code build platform, check out Editor X. And if you want to learn more about web design, check out my course, Web Design Business Bootcamp, that outlines the process that I developed and used at my agency to execute on high-profile website projects for our clients like Google and Disney, and down the list of some awesome, awesome clients. Okay, check it all out. Links down below. Thanks so much for coming and watching this video. Hit the subscribe button while you're here, and we'll see you again in another video soon.